Hey, I'm Scott, and this is Cooking with Breeo. Today, we are gonna make a one-pot chicken pot pie over the Breeo. Here we go. First things first, we gotta chop this onion. Now, onions can be hard to chop, but they don't need to be. Right down through the middle. We're gonna peel it. All right, once you get that onion peeled, you're gonna cut off the tip. And then for this pot pie, we are gonna dice these. We're not gonna go real fine. They can be chunky. Again, this is a rustic meal, so I'm just gonna do a couple slits. Keep your fingers out of the way, and then you're just gonna go down through it. Just like so. All right, so we want to get the onions on first so it can caramelize a little bit. We are going to toss some garlic in as well, so I'm going to get the garlic ready. And then we have most of our other things prepared. Now, as you can see over here, I do have a pot that's going. It's on the heat. We want to get that nice and hot. It doesn't need to be scorching hot, but we're going to add oil and get those onions in right away, so that way they can caramelize. All right, in order to get garlic out of here, there's a couple different ways you can do it. I just like to take the back of my knife, quick pop it out, and then the peel comes right off. It's very simple. Same thing again. Just pop it out, and it peels right off. That's the easiest way to do it. I'm just gonna lightly cut these up. This is actually gonna flavor the whole dish. We're only using 2 cloves of garlic for this, but this will permeate the oil. It's gonna mix in with the onions. It's gonna be delicious. All right, here we go. We're gonna take this top off this thing. So this kettle's a 2-gallon kettle. That's what we're using it for today. And we're just gonna go right in there with some olive oil. And we're gonna go in with our onions, and you can kind of break them up as you put them in. You'll hear that sizzle. That's what you want. Now, the reason we don't put garlic in first is because the garlic will burn, and we're just gonna wait to put that garlic in here after a couple minutes. Stir those onions around. And I also like to add a little salt and pepper to the onions as well, because that flavor is gonna go throughout the whole dish. They say anytime you're adding onions or garlic, you always wanna add salt and pepper. I am gonna add a little bit more olive oil here and mix that around. We're gonna let those onions render down for a couple minutes, put the garlic in, and keep moving. All right, we're gonna check these. We don't want them to burn. We just want them to get nice and caramelized. And I am gonna go right in with the garlic. And back on with the lid. Now we're gonna let that sit for just about a minute or two. Go in with a little bit of flour. That'll thicken it up, and then we'll add our liquids. All right, so that garlic's been marinating with the onions for a little while. And we are gonna go in with just a little bit of flour. Now the flour is just really important so that the chicken pot pie sets up. That's the whole reason we're putting it in. These onions are starting to soften. I don't want to go too soft. I don't really want them to caramelize so they bring in like that rich sweetness. I just want them to be cooked down. That way they're not too crunchy. So we are going to go in with a little flour, and I'm basically just going to slowly put that in. And try and mix that around. That's going to soak up some of the moisture and cook off as well. I'm gonna put a glove on, this is pretty hot. And you want that flour to dissolve just a little bit so that you don't really see it. It's really important that the flour gets kind of cooked off a little bit here. Yeah, we're gonna go right in with the chicken stock. We got about 2 cups of chicken stock here. And we have some chicken stock to put in and a little bit of milk as well. Should hear a nice sizzle. And I'm just adding a little bit to incorporate the flour. And that's starting to form like a nice paste, so I'm gonna go in with a little bit more of it. All right, the rest of that is in. Now before that gets too hot, I'm gonna add the milk. I don't want the milk to break when I put it in. Break means the sauce like separates because of the dairy in here. So I'm gonna add that as well. Now that kind of looks more like a soup, but once we add the other ingredients, it's gonna bring it all together. So we are gonna let that simmer for a little bit. It's gonna reduce and thicken over the next like 4 to 5 minutes. All right, this came to a boil. It's starting to thicken up a little bit. I've been stirring it on and off here. I also lowered it a little bit closer to the heat. I will probably raise that up when we start to cook, but in order to get that to boil and to thicken up, it's really getting good. So we're gonna go in with some of our other ingredients now. We have some frozen carrots and peas. We want this recipe to be very simple, so we're just using ingredients that you can buy. Frozen carrots and peas, it's not gonna hurt the flavor one bit. So I'm just going right in with those. Okay, and I'm gonna stir that around a little bit. And we are gonna go in with our chicken. Now, you can do chicken a bunch of different ways. You can buy rotisserie chicken, you can grill it on the Breeo, you can use leftover chicken. The big thing is cooked chicken is going in here. So you gotta use cooked chicken that's pulled apart, and it's great if it has seasoning on. That way it can incorporate into here. And we're just gonna simply add the chicken right in. This dish is meant to be nice and easy. And a 1-pot dish, easy cleanup. And then definitely want to add a little bit more salt and pepper. The chicken stock is going to have a good bit of salt in it, so you don't want to over salt it. You can always add a little more salt at the end, but it's definitely nice to season while you're cooking it. We're going to incorporate all of this. And that has thickened the whole pot up. So now it's almost more of like a stew-like texture. And this is just fantastic. Take a look at that. Okay, so we got that all incorporated. It's a nice thick consistency. I'm just gonna let that sit a little bit over the fire. And in the meantime, we're gonna go for our favorite part, the biscuits. So what we're gonna use here is these flaky biscuits. Buy them at any store. It's super easy. You don't have to make your own dough. They're inexpensive. And when you're making an easy 1-pot dish, I highly recommend these. And hopefully, oh yeah, that is what I'm talking about. We got these biscuits. What we're gonna do with these is flatten them out just a little bit. We're not gonna go real wild with them. But we're gonna flatten them out a little bit, and we're gonna cover the top of that whole dish with them. We're gonna put the lid on and let these bad boys cook. It's gonna soak up some of that beautiful texture, or beautiful liquid from the rest of the ingredients in there. These will crisp up on top. It's gonna be delicious. So just flatten them out with your palm. And we're gonna go right on top right now. As you can see, this is bubbling in there. That's what you want. It's getting nice and thick, and as this cooks, it should thicken up really, really well. So you just set them on. I'm not putting them down in really at all. They're going on top of our mixture of all the other ingredients. So the hope is this thing forms its own oven. If I want, I could even put a little coals on top, which I think I might do, because that biscuit dough, it's gonna need some heat to cook it. Everything's gonna render down underneath of it, and those biscuits will hopefully rise on the top and should be golden brown. And so I'm gonna put some of these coals on right now. That way you get cooking on the top of it as well. All right, that last piece, set it on top. That's gonna help cook the top side of this thing. We'll check it in a few minutes and then see what happens from there. All right, it's been sitting on there for a while. We're gonna try and sneak this lid off to check it out. Oh, baby. Oh, baby, look at that. You could see where I had more coals on that one side. It definitely got a little crispier. So I think we're gonna take this off. It's been about 15 minutes. And I think we are good to go. So the hope here is that it rendered down enough. We got the crispiness and kind of the flakiness of those delicious biscuits. They definitely have a little bit of char or a little bit of texture, and that is the golden ticket when you're cooking anything with a crust. So we're gonna let this sit a little bit, and then I'm gonna scoop it out and we're gonna give it a try. I'm excited to try this. All right, it's time to dig in here. We've been letting this sit long enough. It came together actually pretty nice in there. We are gonna use a ladle and try to get this out. Oh my goodness. It's kind of like, I mean, look at that. Chicken pot pie, biscuits baked right in. It's like the mixture of a stew and a soup with the buttery biscuits. I mean, I don't quite know how to tell you. You can't go wrong with this thing. Take a look at that. Check that out. Perfectly done biscuits. All right, let's dig in. Had to let this sit for a little bit because it's super hot. But we're gonna dig right in here, see what we got. We got this biscuits. It's almost like biscuits and gravy. Oh my. Look at that. Let it soak it up. That is homey, like something grandma would make. And I'm not just saying that. Soak all that up, get the delicious, the onions and the peas. I get a little bit of that garlic, and those biscuits actually turned out really well. They kind of soaked up the rest of the dish in there. Have nice texture on top. Now that's a one-pot dish. Make it simple. You can do it all at once. It's easy cleanup. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We hope you guys try this recipe at home. Easy one-pot dishes. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.